Okay, now we're going to go through Unit 9, Lesson 2. This is still dealing with organic compounds. You can see here that this compound is organic because it contains elements of carbon. So the first part of this lesson talks about how to make a condensed formula. What they want you to do here, a condensed formula, they want you to kind of smush the H's together with each carbon. So for example, the condensed formula for this, you can still kind of write it out. So it can be like CH3, because this carbon and these three H's are what I'm kind of covering. And then we'll take care of this one, CH. And then down here, there's another CH3 group, right down here. And then next to that CH, this is a CH2 group. And then next to that at the end is a CH3 group. So you still like draw the lines and everything, but you kind of just smush the H's together. So trying it with, I think they have another one like this right here. You just smush the H's together each time. So this first one here is CH3. And then this one is CH2, CH2 again. And then this last one is CH3. And you can see I'm drawing a line in between each one. I'm carrying those lines over for the main carbons, but for the H's, you just kind of smush them together, and it's called a condensed formula. These are coming directly from your problems from Unit 9, Lesson 2. And now you need to learn how to name organic compounds. And so this is, I think, the first, this is a problem from your lesson. You need to pay attention to naming organic compounds because it can get overwhelming pretty quickly, but it's actually not so bad if you pay attention and kind of follow along. And then if you text me with any questions, it's not that bad actually. So the way that you name organic compounds is basically, let me go to an easier one here. This actually is easier, even though it looks like a longer carbon. When you just have a long chain of carbons, see how they're all one long chain? You just count the carbons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there are 10 carbons, right? When there are 10 carbons, you can go to this chart. This is from table 2.1 in your lesson. So lesson 2. And since there are 10 carbons, we're going to put dec in front. Dec is going to be our prefix. So we're going to put dec in front. So it's going to be dec. And then all of these carbon atoms have a single bond, like one dash between them. And so then we're going to end it with ane. So basically for everything from this lesson, it's going to end in ane. And then the prefix tells you how many. This means that there are 10 carbons, right? 10 carbons. You don't have to deal with the H's at all. Okay, so 10 carbons, decane. Okay, so this carbon name, let's look at this one. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 carbons here. 4 carbons. And so going back to this chart, what do you think the name is going to be? Well, before it was 10, now there are 4. The prefix for 4 is B-U-T. Bute actually is how you pronounce it, bute. And so the name is going to be butane because there are 4 carbons. Butane. You just ended in ane every time for now. Let's look at this group. So this is not a straight branch. There are 3 carbons going this way, and then like there's this branch. This is called a branch, okay? A branch. So when you have a branch, you find the main trunk, okay? So it's like a tree. This is the main trunk because it has the longest chain of carbons and it's going in a straight line. So there are 3 carbons in that main trunk. And so we're going to go over to our table. The prefix for 3 is pro or prop. And so the name is going to be for this propane. Propane. And that takes care of naming this part right here because pro means 3. And so we're naming this part right here. But how do we name this branch? This goes to table 2.2. If your branch is just a CH3 group, the prefix for that, the name for that is methyl. If you have a branch that has 2 carbons on it, it's ethyl. If you have a branch with 3 carbons on it, it's propyl. If there are 4 carbons on your branch, it's butyl. So because on ours, how many carbons do we have on this branch right here? Just the branch. See how there's only one carbon? So going back to this group, this name is methyl, okay? Methyl. So we're just gonna tack that on in front. Its name is gonna be methyl propane, but we want to indicate where is the methyl group. Is the methyl group branched, where is it branched off? And so you count the carbons. This is carbon 1 right here, carbon 2 and carbon 3 from the main branch. And the methyl is coming off of carbon 2. So it's called 2-methylpropane because it's coming off of the second carbon. So we're going to practice plenty more with that. So this is your first actual problem from your lesson. And so it kind of helps you here. You see, this is our main branch. So how do we name the main branch? We count the carbons. There are 6 carbons here. And so for 6, the name is going to be hexane. Okay, so we're going to name the main branch hexane. And now we have to name these groups here. So this is a branch right here, and this is also a branch. So let's go over to that chart that looks at branches. This branch has 1 carbon. This branch also has 1 carbon. So looking here, which of these have 1 carbon in them? It's called methyl, right? Again, methyl has just 1 carbon, and then if you look, it has 3 H's, which ours also does, 1 carbon and 3 H's. So we have 2 methyl groups, 1 here and 1 here. So we have 2 methyl groups. So we're going to name it methyl, and we're going to say dimethyl because there are 2 methyl groups, okay? And then we just indicate where they're coming off. So its name would be 2 coming off of carbon 2, and then also coming off of carbon 3, and then dimethyl hexane. So breaking that down, hexane is this main branch right here, hex for 6 carbons. And then dimethyl says that there are 2 methyl groups coming off of carbon 2 and carbon 3. Okay, so let's practice a little bit more. Let's name this branch. So this is the parent chain right here. It's the main chain, okay? So how would we name that parent chain? There are 8 carbons. So go to your table here, okay? And for 8, the prefix for 8 is oct, okay? So we're gonna name this octane. But we're not done because that only names this part right here. And we would be done if there was not this branch, but we've got this branch coming off right here. And on this branch, there are 2 carbons, 2 carbons. So going over to table 2.2, which branch, or it's actually called an alkyl group for a branch, which branched carbon group has 2 carbons? Well, when you look at this picture here, look over here, which one does? The ethyl group has 2 carbons. So the name for this is called ethyl, okay? And then it's coming off of carbon 2. So we're gonna name it ethyl. And then we also include information on where it's coming off. 2-ethyl octane would be the name for this. Okay, next one here, let's name this carbon group. So again, we're going to name the parent chain first, the main branch. There are 5 carbons here, right? 5. So what is the prefix for 5? Going over to table 2.1, that prefix is pent. So we're going to name this pentane. And that takes care of naming all of this, all of that. And then we have this group coming off, and we need to count the carbons. There's only 1 carbon, so again, this is going to be a methyl group. That comes from table 2.2. You look at the branched naming groups. And so we're going to name it methyl, and then we're going to indicate which carbon is it coming off of. Oh, it's coming off of carbon 2, so 2-methylpentane would be the name for this compound. Okay, last section, you may have situations like this where this looks really weird. When you see this is a shorthand notation. Every time you see like a corner, so you see how there's a corner here and a corner here, there's 5 corners. Each corner represents a carbon. So really, this compound looks like this. And then there are also H's coming off too. You don't need to worry about this. Honestly, I would not worry about it right now unless you take organic chemistry in college. But basically, it's like a shorthand notation for showing all the carbons. But when there's a circle like this, you put cyclo in front, cyclo, and then this is the main branch this time. So the branch is not like going in what looks like a straight line this time. It's going in a circle, right? But it's still the main branch. There are 5 carbons here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So going to table 2.1, the prefix for 5 is still pent, okay? So it's going to be called cyclopentane. The cyclo just means, okay, there's 5 carbons, but they connect into a circle. And now let's look at these branched groups. There's a branch here and a branch here. So what are those branches called? We need to find CH3. Okay, CH3 is right here. CH3 is called methyl, right? If there's 1 carbon and 3 H's, it's called methyl again. And there are 2 of them. So we're going to call it methyl. And since there are 2 methyl groups, we're going to say dimethyl. And then 1 is coming off of carbon 1 and 1 is coming off of carbon 2. See how this is coming off of the first part and the second part? So 1, 2 dimethyl cyclopentane. Cyclo because it's in a circle. So this covers all of the problems for lesson 2. Hopefully you feel better about taking the quiz. Oftentimes you can kind of use process of elimination when you look at the answer options. For example, like if it gives you an answer option of cyclohexane, it's not going to be that one because hex means 6 and there are not 6 carbons here. So oftentimes you can just use elimination on the multiple choice questions to kind of figure out which one looks right. But I want you to see how you can do it yourself as well. If you have any questions at all, just let me know and I'm happy to help.